Today's guest is from Monroe, Michigan. He has a boxing record of 56 wins, 11 losses, and 1 draw. Finished 34 by knockout. During his fighting career, he captured the WBO lightweight middleweight championship, the IBA lightweight or light middleweight title, the WBC NABF light middleweight title, the WBF intercontinental middleweight title, and the UBO middleweight title. He excited fans over 22 years in his boxing career, being a speedy southpaw, displaying great skill and talent. Now he's a member of the Michigan Boxing Commission. Welcome to the show, Bronco Superman McKart.
Oh, man, that introduction, that never gets old. I like hearing that. You did a good job.
I appreciate it, man. You put in the work.
Yeah, right. That was a great introduction.
you put in the work. It makes it easy, and I love reading those off and just thinking back on it, man. Just that's got to feel good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's like, being a former athlete yourself, there's certain goals that you set for yourself. And then when you attain those goals, once you've attained them, you're in the books forever, right? You're in the history books forever. They can never take that away from you. And it's always a blessing. It's an honor to be a part of that fraternity, I guess, of guys that have won world championships in boxing. I came up in a great era. Actually, I missed a great era too. I came up one decade behind the Hearns, Haglers, Leonard Duran, and quite honestly, I'm grateful and thankful that I did. I mean, I don't know if we'd have been introduced as a former world champion if I'd have came up in that era. Might have been fought for the world championship. I don't know, but it was a great era of boxing, and my era, I believe, was the last generation of fighters who just fight anybody. They didn't. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't get on there and flex and show how fast we were with the speed bag and the heavy bag combinations and all that. We were fighters. We weren't Instagram pretty boys. But every generation has their thing, I guess. This generation, though, a little different than us. Like I said, I came up with James Toney.
Yeah.
He went from middleweight to heavyweight world champion. And this guy, I don't know if it was his line or not, but I remember one time they offered a fight against somebody to fight him. And James said, listen, the only thing I turn down is my bed sheets at night. And I thought, man, that's the camp I'm in. So I took that same mentality. I fought anybody they put in front of me. And, I was fortunate and blessed to come up under a guy like James Toney and Jackie Callan as a manager at the time. I just fell into the right place at the right time. It was a blessing for sure.
Jackie Callan, they did a movie about Jackie Callan, didn't they?
Yeah, Against the Ropes.
Meg
Ryan played the lead. Yeah. So it was a good movie. A lot of Hollywood to it, but it was a good movie.
How you been through COVID?
Fine. So far, been blessed. Actually, though, my girlfriend, her family, they all ended up getting it. Mom, dad, sister, nephews, brother-in-law.
Hope they're all right.
Yep. Everybody came out fine. My mom ended up getting it. Fortunately for us, we've been healthy and safe and no issues.
That's good. Getting in the box, we go back now to more towards the beginning when you were young. How did you get into boxing? Because usually it's something that introduces people to boxing. They were either picked on or somebody took them under their wing and they took them in there. How did you get into boxing?
Well, my dad was an amateur boxing coach for a number of years, trained a lot of fighters in Monroe. And I was at the age of 14. I was going down that path in life, where I was going the wrong way.
Yep.
And my dad, who I loved and respected, but I also feared because my dad was a no-nonsense guy growing up. Still, my dad's still alive and he's still a no-nonsense guy. He's almost 80 and thinks he's 30, you know what I mean?
My dad.
Oh, yeah, he's ready to fight anybody that wants to buck up against him. I'm like, but one day I came home from school. My dad sat me down. He was waiting at the door for me, actually, and sat me down on the couch. Said, we're going to have a talk. I said, okay. He said, every day when you get home from school from this day forward, you're going to do something with me. I don't care what it is. We can go play basketball. We can go fishing. We can do anything, but you're going to do it with me because I'm going to change your life right now. I'm not going to let you go down that road. And he was training fighters at the time. I started going to the gym. I was in there one day working out, sparring. And once they made me work 3 months just on footwork. They didn't allow me to do anything else. 3 months on getting my foundation correct. Then once my footwork was down, they let me spar one day. And I hit this guy with a right hook, boom, and he went down. And it was just like, it was a great feeling, right? And it just kind of was like, dang, I just dropped that guy. And from that moment on, I was hooked.
It's like an adrenaline rush.
It was, but it was the greatest move ever in life for me, because I always felt like I was in boxing for more than boxing. I always felt like it was a platform to, talk to younger kids and just, do things with it. And, I believe that boxing changed my life in a positive way, because all my friends, except for one, who's my best friend to this day, but that whole group of guys that we ran around with all went to prison. Some are still in prison. Some were shot, all that stuff that you hear. And, my dad basically stepped in and saved my life and wasn't going to let me go down that road.
How far is Monroe, Michigan from Detroit?
We are about 30 minutes south.
Okay.
Yeah, we're like 30 minutes south of Detroit and 15 minutes north of Toledo, Ohio. So we're like right in the middle.
Okay. And, when you're talking about the changing of the life, I feel like football does the same for so many people, because one thing you have to be is discipline. And one thing that people don't really grasp anymore is fighting is a discipline.
Yeah.
Right? To learn those things. How important was the fighting aspect to what you do now and what you are now? And how much did you learn from boxing?
Oh, man. I tell people all the time, to me, and, again, you being a former athlete, you know the discipline and everything that it takes to become successful, right? So I tell people all the time, I think boxing and life are so parallel to each other, because life's going to hit you hard. You're going to get knocked down. You have two choices. You stay down or you get up and you keep pressing forward. I sound like that line from what was it, Rocky VI, I believe it was. But yeah, I mean, boxing is that way, and the sports are that way too. It's just you go through your hard knocks. You learn. You don't necessarily learn to accept defeat, but you learn how to deal with it. You never like it. And you never just say, oh, yeah, I lost, whatever. But you learn to cope with it, and you learn, what mistakes you made and how to get better. And it's just like life. You make a ton of mistakes and you figure out where you went wrong. And, if you're blessed enough, you get a second, third, fourth, fifth chance, because we're all going to make so many mistakes. And I feel like boxing is truly that way, where you're going to get knocked down and you have 10 seconds.
Yeah.
To think about it. And you have two choices. You stay down and get counted out, or you get up and you keep fighting. That's it. Yeah. That's what boxing has taught me.
Who's your favorite fighters growing up? Like when you first got into sport, did you watch boxing since your dad was a trainer before you started going in there? Who are some of the guys you really watched?
Well, growing up, of course, I was young, but I knew of Muhammad Ali, loved him. Was able to meet him when I was 20 something years old, take pictures with him. Awesome. But actually guys that I watched, it was that era of the Tommy Hearns, who is a personal friend of mine, just called me last night. It was funny too, because he called me, I was sitting in a chair and he said, Bronco, yeah, he said, I want to fight you. I said, what do you mean fight me? I said, like a boxing match? Yeah. I said, well, what weight? He said, your weight. I said, 160. I said, well, you're about 210 right now, right? Yeah. Well, you drop 50 pounds, we can fight, And we started laughing. But Sugar Ray Leonard, who, again, I was blessed to have as a manager for a year during my career.
Awesome.
I loved Marvin Hagler. I mean, that whole Roberto Duran, Wilfred Benitez. I mean, that whole generation, guys. But there was guys like Donnie Lalonde. I stay in touch with him on Facebook. I really liked him as a fighter and as a person. But those were my main guys. The Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Leonard Duran. I lived it and I loved it, man. I cried when some of those guys would lose, and I would stay up late and watch them. And I tell Tommy Hearns to this day. I just told him this about a year and a half ago. I said, Tommy, because we've been friends probably for 20 some odd years. I never told him this. I said, I had your pictures hanging up in my locker in high school. I said, in my workout room, your picture was hanging up in. I said, everywhere I went, I had a picture of Tommy Hearns. I said, because I wanted to be just like you, man. I said, I admired you so much, as a fighter. And I said, and now to call you a friend, every once in a while when we're at dinner or something, it's still surreal to me, that I'm sitting across the guy that I used to cut out of the magazine. I got caught stealing posters at a library and one time. I was tearing, because they used to have boxing magazines in the libraries. And I was taking Tommy Hearns' picture out and Leonard's and Duran, and they caught me. But you know what? They just knew back then that I loved it. No, but I was young. I wasn't even a teenager, I don't think. And they didn't really do nothing to me. They just kind of told me not to do that anymore. But
They used to have some brawls, man.
Yes.
Like Hagler, Hearns, Sugar Ray. Oh my gosh. It's, I used to love Sweet Pea as well.
Oh yeah.
Sweet Pea, Pernell Whitaker.
Yeah.
He was one of my favorites growing up. I used to watch all you guys, man. I loved boxing. It was one of those things where me and my cousin actually, we would bet $1 on each the Tuesday night fights or the Friday night fights. And so you had boxing like 4 days a week back then. And people don't realize that because there wasn't really a big pay-per-view market. But unless you were Tyson, right? You wasn't really a pay-per-view guy. You fought on Tuesday night fights or Friday night fights or Thursday night fights. And it would always come on like Fox Sports and things like that. So, dude, I used to watch it and just be, dude, these guys fight. They fight. And when you talk
that's where.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No. You go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's where you're talking about like today's era is more about trying to stay undefeated, where back then you got more respect for fighting the best. Even if you lost, you got more respect. Now you got, if you were at Showtime or you with HBO or you with this or you with this, is this your promoter? Like there's so many hurdles to get the best guys in the ring against each other now. It's impossible.
Exactly. And that brings you to like Floyd Mayweather, who you can't take away what he's done for the sport and in the sport and the money he's made and his greatness. He is a great fighter, but when he always would wear the TBE, the best ever, I would always tell people, no, more like the best of this era, TBE, the best of this era, not ever. I said, because if you took Floyd Mayweather and you threw him in the mix, Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Wilfred Benitez.
He got to fight.
Floyd Mayweather. I said, do you think he's not going to beat? He would not have beat all four. He would have not come out undefeated against those four guys.
He wouldn't have never went to 147.
No, he would have stayed down.
He would have stayed down at 135, 140. He wouldn't have came down
and dominated. He would have dominated down there, maybe in any era, but he would have not played with them guys at 147. I asked Tommy one night at dinner. I said, Tommy, if you and Floyd fought in your prime, in his prime, what would you say? I had my prediction. I said, what would you say? He said 3 rounds. I said, I said 4. But I said, so we're right on the same page. He said, yeah. He said, I'd have walked over. I said, I know you would. You're too big, 147. You'd have walked over. That guy could have never did them shoulder rolls and kept you off. You would have dogged him. And but that's the different generation. I say that about, and I could be way off on this, but I say that about a lot of sports in general. Football. I mean, like, so the Ronnie Lott, the Lawrence Taylors, the way they used to rip them quarterbacks, like as great in my opinion as Tom Brady is, if he would have been getting ripped by a Lawrence Taylor or guys like that coming through the line, Dick Butkus, those kind of guys and just smashing the quarterbacks. A lot of these quarterbacks, they wouldn't have made it nowadays.
Mean Joe Green, like one of the biggest things with football people don't get is how football has changed. It's went from a really ball control to a spread open game. Like, it would be hard for Roger Staubach to play in today's game. When you're throwing the ball 15 to 20 times in a game, but you're mostly running the ball back in their era to now they're throwing it 40 to 60 times a game. You got to make better decisions. And I think it's proven that quarterbacks usually play best if they can throw it under 35 times a game, right? So majority quarterbacks do better, but all those dynamics. And then you add in base defenses back then to now there's so many more defenses, so many more variations on everything you're doing. The game's much more complex than it's ever been, right? That's a huge difference.
Well, they have so many TVs and computers and science behind it now, and they everything right down to one millionth of a second. I mean, they just have everything down scientifically. So it's just, and the athletes are different genetically. They're big. They're strong. They're fast. They take all these different vitamins and different things. There's just a lot of different things out there. So has
analytics hit boxing as far as how to win a fight? Like if you say, okay, these judges, do they look and say, okay, these are the judges, or how do I win a round? And because sometimes you see some fights that are really close where they're not throwing a lot of punches, but they're still able to win rounds. Is that analytically, or what is the thought process in that?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you watch and you study tapes, and I guess it's like anything else. Certain officials are going to call in basketball going to call travel on this one. Certain ones won't. Certain officials are going to call the strike zone high. Certain ones won't. So in boxing, like some officials will give you extra points for defense, where other ones will give you points for body shots. That one, you do know your judges. I mean, after you've been around the game long enough, you can kind of pick who's going to judge a fight which way. But you study your fight films, you look at things, and you try to pick fighters apart. I think the best guy right now in the game for picking a guy apart is Terrence Crawford. Ooh. He takes about 2 rounds, 3 rounds. Then when he knows he has you, man, that guy's relentless. He's special.
His fight last weekend. Ooh.
Oh yeah. He could have fought in any era. He could have been that guy, fought in any era and done fine. I mean, I like that guy. If you're left-handed, he'll come out and beat you left-handed. You're right-handed, he'll come out and beat you right-handed. I mean, he mentally abuses these guys, not only physically. He just gets in their head. They know what they have when Terrence Crawford's lined up across the ring from them.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
Back then also there was quicker turnarounds in fights. What was your quickest turnaround in a fight?
Tuesday and Friday.
You fought a Tuesday, Friday, same week.
Fought a Tuesday in Michigan and Friday in Ohio. That was when I was coming up in a 4-round fight, but that's a pretty quick turnaround.
That is.
Yeah.
How did they go?
I won 2 4-round. Let me think. I think I won 2 4-round decisions. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
2 4-round decisions. Yeah, I was very sore at the end of that week. Yeah.
Mindset of going into a 4-round fight. I mean, there's not a lot of time to get to know what he's going to do. You got to go in there with a set game plan that you got to impose your will pretty quickly.
Yeah, but even as an amateur, I fought more of a pro style.
Okay.
I was never just go out and throw a bunch of punches and not know why I was throwing them. I was calculated, and I tried to fight calculated as a pro. I picked my shots. I waited. I was never just it's a 4-round fight. I got to hustle. You hustle, but you only hustle when you need to. I kept trying to control it with my jab and just box. It's boxing, and so I never took that amateur style into the pros because I never fought the amateur style as an amateur. How
many fights do you fight amateur?
35.
You fought 35 amateur fights and 68 pro fights.
Yep. I picked, as an amateur, so it's not a lot of experience, but I won I think I fought in the Golden Gloves 6, 8, 7, 8, 9, 9, 7 years from 86 to 92. During that time, I think I won them 4 times and finished runner-up 3. Finished runner-up early, and then when I learned how to fight from like the age of 18 forward, I was just walking through them pretty much.
What clicked?
And then, I think I mentally started to understand that I could fight. Like physically, I had it, but I didn't know it, right? And so what happened was, I'd be at these fights as an amateur, and guys would be like, "Oh man, you can really fight," and I would think, "What? I don't see what they're seeing. I just don't feel it." And then, right around the age of 19, it just hit that I could fight. So like, I think 19, 20, 21, I pretty much, I won the Golden Gloves those 3 years in a row, but I think I stopped most people, even as an amateur, during those couple years. And it was just clicking. But I tell you what, I still didn't have the mental, because I really feel in my heart, if I'd have been as mentally equal as I was physically when I was fighting, that I would have been an Olympian, all those things. But it just didn't hit me. When I turned pro and I lost my first fight, I think it was like my seventh fight in Vegas. Not a big undercard. James Toney was fighting that night. Roy Jones was fighting that night. All these guys. I'm walking around. I'm meeting like Demi Moore and Bruce Willis, and I'm shell shocked, man. I'm 21 years old. I've barely been out of Monroe. I'm in Vegas. I got all these movie stars ringside. I'm taking pictures, shaking hands. Oh, this is great. So I lose a 4-round decision, and I was in my locker room. This is how little things that you say to inspire people can really change a person's mindset in their life, right? And there's a couple things that stuck out in my life, and this is one of them in my boxing life. I got my head on the table. I'm crying. I lost the fight. I can't believe I got beat. I feel this big pat on my back. I look up. It's George Foreman. He said, "Hey, Bronco, I just want to tell you something. That was a great fight, and you have that little something someday you're going to be world champion. I was like, man, Mr. Foreman, coming from you, you don't even know what that means. That means the world to me. And I shook his hand, thanked him, stopped crying, sucked it up, came back, took on the guy. I remember the next guy I fought, I believe his name was Robert West. He was a tough guy out of Ohio, was beating these guys. You know, we had about the same record, but they're like, that's a bad fight early in your career. I said, no, that fight in Vegas was a fluke, and I'm coming back strong. And then I kept that in my mind. George Foreman, who was one of the best fighters ever, said I could be world champion. I just know I can be world champion, you know. Then I just started grinding it out. And we set a game plan out, a 4-year plan, and we did it in like 3 years and 8 months to win the first world title. Yeah, so just those types of things. And then one time I went to meet this athlete. I'm not going to say his name because he's passed on, but went to shake his hand, said, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I don't want to autograph a picture. I don't want to bother you. I know you're a busy guy. I just like to shake your hand and say it was a pleasure watching you, you know, play the sport that he played. And he looked at me, didn't put his hand out. He said, I'm busy. Yeah, I was 21. And I thought, man, if somebody ever asked to shake my hand or get an autograph from me, I will never turn them down. And to this day, I never have. I don't care what it takes, because that hit me hard as a 21-year-old kid. So those two things, one hit me, they both were used positive. Yeah. But one was a negative experience and one was a positive experience. So
it allows you to, you know, I always tell people always ask me, like, you know, what kind of person are you? I said, depends on the day you meet me and what just happened. Right. And I've always tried to keep that in perspective. Like, somebody knows me as an ass. Somebody knows me as the greatest person on earth. Somebody knows me. So anywhere in between there, it just depends on the day. Right. So I try to keep it in the perspective of how people know me. Like, if you meet me after we lost, I'm probably not going to be the happiest guy.
Right.
If that's your only encounter with me. But yeah, I love fans. I love engaging people. And I just love that art of, because why else do you do it? Right. You do it for personal satisfaction and gratification, but at the same time, we're entertainers.
Yeah.
We do it to entertain. And for somebody to come up to you, that's a gratifying situation, because you know that you made an impact on that person for them want to come up and say something. So
sure,
that's
absolutely.
very unfortunate. That's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Now, weight cuts. Do you have major weight cuts, or did you fight around your weight size? And
well, so I turned pro at 147.
Yep.
I think I had about 11 fights. I was 10-1, 3 knockouts. Couldn't break an egg, man, because I was killing myself, you know, making weight. We'd always joke, I'd knock an egg off a table, it wouldn't break, you know, at 147. So then I was just boxing everybody. I couldn't really just didn't have the oomph. And, you know, James Toney kept saying, Bronco, just move up to 154. And I'm like, man, those guys up there are killers, James. They're trimming down from 190, and they're big guys. I'm looking at all these, you know, 54 champions, and I'm thinking, man, that'd be crazy. So he convinced me to do it. I moved up to 154. I scored like 14 straight knockouts. I went on a roll, and I felt good. So when I was fighting 147, I could get as high as 170. But when I moved up to 54, I couldn't hardly get above 64 because my body was comfortable. Yeah. Right. And then towards the end of my career, I ended up at 160 because you train so long, you build muscle. Then when you start cutting weight, you're not cutting weight anymore. You're cutting muscle. You're past the fat. You're into the muscle. So and then now I retired in 2014. I walk around at about 164, 165. I don't, you know, I still work out and stuff and eat pretty good, but I don't let myself go. I can't. I want to. I wanted to at one point. I thought, man, when I retire, I'm going to eat everything. I'm going to get about 200 pounds. But I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it to myself, you know?
Yeah. Do you have any long-term effects from the weight cuts? I guess you didn't really cut a lot, but so it didn't really matter. But do you know boxers, or did it affect you from the weight cuts to get ready for fights?
The only thing that I ever really remember that probably was very unhealthy was, like, after I would make weight at 147 and I would drink water or juice or whatever, I would shake for about an hour. You know, I shook really bad because my body was so dehydrated. I think it was just, I just would shake for like an hour. Then I would get real hot and my face would get hot and I'd get real stuffy and couldn't sleep. You know, I was achy, stuff like that. But once I moved to 54, it really wasn't an issue. Not only putting on that 7 pounds weight difference, but understanding your body. See, again, back then we didn't have all the dietitians and all that kind of stuff like they do now. But once I understood, I can eat this food and I can eat a lot of it, and it's not going to put much weight on me. And then I started understanding my body, what worked for me and what didn't. Then it became pretty easy, because it was just like I was controlling my own body with not just by my exercise and cutting out water and liquid, but by the foods that I ate.
Yeah,
so it made a big difference.
Hold a lot of weight.
Yeah, absolutely. So it made a big difference.
You had a trilogy with Winky Wright.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back at that, what do you think? I just went back and watched it too before we did this.
Well, the very first fight, in my heart to this day, I felt I won that fight. It was close.
Yeah.
It was tight. I felt I won it. I felt being the world champion. I felt I won that fight. But on the books, I didn't. So, hey, whatever. Then the second fight of the 3 fights, the second fight was his best fight. He outboxed me really well in the second fight. He was just on that night. In the third fight, I got DQ'd for low blows. Some of those punches were definitely low. Some of them I didn't feel were. It just didn't go well. But having shared the ring 3 times with him, it was great. I went down to Florida right after I retired. Matter of fact, the week after I retired, went down there and we went out and played some golf. We talked about our careers, except the only fights we never talked about was our 3. We talked about everything else. Yeah, we never even mentioned our 3 fights. We talked about everything else. Yeah, had a good time. I still stay in contact with him. We talk, and I told him next time I come down to Florida, we'll play some golf again and stuff. I like Winky. Matter of fact, I pretty much like every fighter that I ever fought. I stay in touch with a lot of them. And even when I'm putting together highlight reels, like I have some people working on some highlight reels right now. And a couple of the guys that I stopped during my career, I called them and messaged them and said, hey, man, getting this reel together. Do you mind if you're on it? If not, I won't put you on it.
Yeah.
Oh, heck no, man. I don't know. I'm just that way. I just feel that I know it's out there. I know they're out there, those fights anyways, but I don't know. I don't know. I just think it's the respectful thing to do.
They say when you fight, you leave a piece of yourself with that person forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it takes something. You got to dig deep, especially because you're going to take shots. You're going to take shots in the head. You're going to take body shots, and you got to dig deep to get to that point.
Sorry, I lost you.
Oh, you're good.
Go
But you got to dig deep in there, and I'm pretty sure mentally, it's the first thing to be like, you know what, I shouldn't be in here, or I should take a knee. But you're like, there's something in you. So when maybe y'all not talking about it, was it like an ego thing or was it just we just leaving that alone?
Yeah, it just never in our conversations out there 4 hours on the golf course, it just never came up. It was just one of those things that I don't know. It was weird because I never felt the need to mention it, and he never mentioned it. And we just talked about all the other different fights that we had in our careers and some of the same guys that we fought and things like that. But we never even mentioned our fight, and I don't think it was had anything to do with egotistical or we just didn't do it.
How's your golf game?
Yeah, it's Anyway, I tell you what, his golf game, man, that guy could play some golf.
Really?
Yeah, he played really good golf. Yeah, my game. When I used to play a lot of golf, I shot like low to mid 80s, but I don't play that much anymore. I play more in scrambles, like the tournaments when they get together and have these little fundraisers and stuff like that. I play more of those types of events.
Okay. Now, looking back over your career, winning multiple championships, you fought a lot of big name guys, with Winky and Kelly Pavlik and now Tony Harrison and guys, and over the course of 23 years. How do you feel about looking back at everything and just being like, do you sometimes just take a deep breath and be like, I can't believe I fought this many guys. I can't believe I won this many fights. I can't believe like this happened in my life.
Yeah. Actually, so one day we do a lot of like trivia stuff around the house, just silly stuff. And her daughter was walking through and said, hey, how many fights did Muhammad Ali win? I said, 56. She's like, it says on here 54. I said, well, that's wrong. It's 56. I'm telling you right now. Right. So it like turned into almost an argument in the house. So when she walked out, my girlfriend said, what do you do? I said, I'm telling you, he won 56 fights. I won 56 fights. I said, I know how many fights he won. I said, that's my boxing idol, So the fact that I can even say I wanted not in no way, shape, or form. I'm putting my asterisk on this and disclaimer right now. I'm not trying to compare anything with my career to Muhammad Ali's. I'm just saying the fact that it's cool for me personally that I had 56 wins and the guy that was my boxing idol had 56 wins. But yeah, I look back on some of the guys that I fought and I pride myself on, I fought the best of the best during my time.
Yeah.
The guys that were the Ring magazine top 10s, the guys that were the WBA, WBC. I fought all them guys, and they offered me a fight, and I took it. And so I'm proud of what I did, for the simple fact that I'm from the city, small city, Monroe, Michigan. We've had a lot of really neat people and neat things come out of here, but I'm proud of what I did, just because I'm just a kid who wasn't supposed to be able to do what I did.
Yeah.
An overachiever, because I worked and I wanted it. And I lived it. And when I see a fighter, like nowadays, again, I remember an MMA guy fought John Jones a few times. They had a real bad rivalry. He's a big wrestling guy.
Daniel Cormier.
Cormier. So I remember after Cormier lost to Jones, and they put that meme was going around of him crying, and they were doing all these funny little things. And I commented on it. I said, I respect a man that wants to win so bad he cries when he loses.
Yeah.
He's not crying because he's crying because he wanted to win so bad. And I love an athlete like that.
That's
I
it.
take a team full of guys that want to win so bad that it sickens them to their stomach and they cry when they lose. I want that guy on my side. And that's how I tried to approach it. If I lost, it wasn't a happy moment. I hated it and didn't want it to happen again.
But you put so much into it, right? I think that's what people don't understand. You put so much into it. And in boxing, it's short terms. Like I prepared the off season for 18 games in the CFL and then for the playoffs. But in boxing, you prepare for a month, 2 months, or however long it is for one guy, one fight, 36 minutes, right? So you're putting everything into this 36-minute window, and you want to go out there and display the best of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're sacrificing, you're missing birthdays, you're missing holidays, dinners, you're missing functions. Like, so I turned pro at 21. Let me go back to my high school. So when everybody was taking spring breaks and going down to Florida, doing all their good things, I'm here in Monroe training, getting ready for Toledo Golden Gloves. I turned 21 in March of 92, and I turned pro in July of 92. So on my birthday in March, I'm not gonna lie, I told my buddy, take me out, drive me around. I just want to get some drinks in my system, and I want to get this out of my system, because tomorrow morning after my birthday, I'm training to get ready to turn professional. And I said, I will not touch this stuff. And so the first 4 years, until I won my world title from 21 to 25, I wouldn't even look at alcohol. I mean, and that's the so-called prime years. So when I was fighting, when I was in that prime time, nobody saw me out at the bars, the clubs. I didn't do any of that stuff, man. I trained, slept, ate, and went home. I wanted it. And I knew that for that short-term sacrifice, I would have long-term rewards. And just as something like this, being able to be on a podcast and talk about what I did, and like I said, do different interviews and still go speak different places. And that's all because of a short-term win or a sacrifice that for the rest of my life, I'll have the tag as a former world champion. And I'm thankful for that, man. I'm thankful for that. Thankful.
That's awesome. And I don't think a bunch of people understand that is that commitment to really greatness and commitment to yourself. I remember when J.J. Watt said he didn't need a girlfriend and he didn't need this, like when he first came to the NFL. He's like, this is a short window.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disappoint somebody by saying no to them when I'm putting everything I have into being the best I can be in this short window. Because then when that window's over, I can do anything else I want to do.
That's right. That's right. And a lot of people don't either A, don't see it, or B, they don't. There's been plenty of guys, put it to you this way, that were out there that were more talented than I ever was, even in my area, that were, as far as raw talent. But when they took the summers off, I trained. I went to Toledo. I went to Detroit. When they came back during the boxing season, I was one peg up from what I was last year. Then the following year I was 2 pegs. Then 3. Then pretty soon I'm climbing up because I'm working. I'm doing 3-a-day workouts. You know, I'm only taking Sunday off. That's the only day I'm taking off. And sometimes if I feel good, I don't take my Sundays off. You know, but I wanted it. I knew I wanted it, and I wanted it. And I was driven more by those that didn't believe in me than those who did believe in me. Yeah. I was driven by those who. My biggest fear was not losing. My biggest fear was giving you the opportunity to tell me I lost. That was my biggest fear. I didn't want it. I didn't want people to be able to hold that over me. So I mean, I can tell you this. I fought a guy one time, Skipper Kelp, who was a very good amateur fighter, and he was doing really well in the pros. I think when we fought, he was 19-1 and I was 18-1, or vice versa. We were evenly matched, and he was top ranked guy. And they were pushing him. He was going to be the next welterweight world champion, and vicious left hooker, you know. And I remember there was a lot of people, especially in my own city, that thought that this guy was going to beat me. And I know there was people pulling against me. I knew it. I convinced myself of it, right? I'm in my hotel room day of the fight. This is one fight. I'm so nervous. I'm dry heaving. I mean, I'm thinking, man, because I remember my dad telling me one time, I'm telling you, my dad said, when you turn pro, you're going to have to beat a guy named Skipper Kelp if you want to get where you got to go. Now, here I am watching this guy on ESPN just murder people. And I'm thinking, I ain't beat him. I don't even want to fight that guy, right? So
the mental hurdles.
Right. So the fight happens. And the day of the fight, my grandpa, he was still alive at the time. I call him. Hey, Grandpa, I just want to tell you I love you, man. You know, blah, blah, blah. And call my uncles. They were alive at the time. I'm going through my family. I'm calling people. For my grandpa, when I get to him, he said, Bronco, why are you calling me day of the fight, saying all this stuff? You never talk like that day of the fight. I said, because Grandpa, and this is how crazy my mind was back then. I said, I want to win this fight so bad that I prayed to God that I'd rather die than lose to this man. So if it goes bad in there, I'm just making my peace with everybody before the fight, because I'm telling you, I made it with God already right here in my hotel.
I'm ready to bite down and go to war.
And he's like, don't talk like that. I said, it's too late. I said, I'm ready, Grant. I said, that's where I'm at, and that's my mindset. So, but fortunately, here I am. So I obviously came out the winner. But yeah, that's how bad I wanted to win when I was coming up. You know.
Did you have fun fighting? Like, you talk about that story, and I remember for the longest time in my career, I didn't have fun for probably the first 10 years because I was always looking at the scoreboard. I was always thinking how we need to win, how can we win, how we will win. And it was always the process of, I didn't enjoy playing the game. I'd make a big play, I'd be happy for a second, but then it's back to, I'm so mental in the approach of how I played. Mm-hmm. Like, and for you, you're in the moments you're fighting, or you think, okay, this guy can beat me or this guy can't. Did you enjoy it when you were in the ring? Did you genuinely enjoy it ever, or was it just I enjoyed getting ready for it? That was a job, and then I enjoyed everything after.
I think I enjoyed everything because I loved what I was doing. Right. Yeah. I know there was a lot of sacrifice. I know that there were, there was a lot of pain, both physically and emotionally sometimes. The business side, that was garbage. But I loved what I was doing. And yeah, there were times in there when especially if things were really going your way, yeah. I was really having a good time. I'd be talking in the clinches, saying different things and, that kind of stuff. So I remember later in my career, I fought this guy. We were watching tapes of him, and he had fought this young prospect. Guy was like 17-0 or 17-1, man. Hit him with a crisp one, too. Boom, boom. It was over. I said, man, that was pretty sneaky. I watched that like 4 or 5 times. I said, man, that was a sneaky little back jab right hand. That fight was over. So I fight this guy, and he hits me with that same combination. Boom, boom. And it was weird because he hit me, and like the whole side of my body like went numb, like one side. But it didn't hurt, I guess, because it numbed me. I don't know. I can't explain it. But I remember when he hit me, boom, boom. And I grabbed him in the clinch and I kissed him on his cheek. And I said, you hit like a right? And that threw that guy off so bad, he lost every round after that. I said I won the fight. so yeah, that was so on the news.
Gotta play some mind games in here.
You do. And sometimes I would do it unintentionally. I would just speak what I was saying, and I could see that it affected the guy. So then I rode with it. You know, I would just be real, and sometimes it would affect the guy. I could see it in his face, like, oh, I just got in his head. Didn't even mean to. I just spoke what I spoke.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was telling a story last night on a different podcast, or this show last night about the hardest hit I took in football and how I took the hit and I seen flickering in the lights up top on one side, and the lights were just moving like this. And by the time I got to the sidelines, I couple more plays in. Then after the drive, I go to the sideline. The lights are still flickering. I talked to the trainer. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but the lights over here are just flickering up and down. He's like, are you all right? I said, I feel good, but the lights are flickering. Right. Maybe about 8 minutes later in the game, I run the same route, another catch, boom, take another hit. It's an out and up, but the quarterback floats the ball. The safety destroyed me, big hitter, Kyrie Saber, and the flicker went away. And I was like, he gave me a concussion.
Oh yeah, that happens.
So it was, it's one of those things where you like you've been in the ring, you got to bite down. You know, this guy's got a great left hook. Right. And you do everything you can to stay away from that left hook, but at some point he's going to land.
Yep. It's going to happen. I think so. I was asked the other day, who was the toughest guy I ever fought? Just raw tough. Doesn't mean the best, but just tough. He was out of Canada. His name was Alain Bonamy. Man, I'm telling you what, as far as raw toughness, I kid you not, the next morning, I trained in California for that fight. I went out to a training camp with James Toney. We fought in Connecticut, but we trained in California at Mickey Rourke had a gym, and Freddie Roach ran it back then. And so we trained like 6-7 weeks out there. I was in fantastic shape. My dad called me one day. He said, how you doing out there? I said, good. He said, when you fly in, we're going to meet in Detroit, and I'm going with you to Connecticut. My dad never missed one of my fights ever as a professional.
Okay.
He was one of my first trainers. Stayed with me my whole career, worked my corner every fight. So he said, what kind of shape are you in? I said, Dad, man, I'm in great shape. I get in good shape every fight, but I said, I'm in great shape for this fight. I said, I could beat this guy at 50%. He's like, well, but you're not 50%, right? I said, no, I'm in great shape. So after the fight was over the next morning, man, I'm cut up. He was cut up. We're in the hospital looking at each other, laughing about our fight. Me and the guy, man, great fight. I said, yeah, no kidding. He's already getting stitches. I'm getting stitches. I mean, it was a brutal fight. It got stopped in 6 rounds because due to cuts. Next morning, my hands were completely black. I'm all the way through both sides, just from hitting him. And I had stitches, my eyes shut, and I'm sitting at the table. I'm sore, man. I don't even want to eat. I'm chewing. I'm trying to eat breakfast, My dad looked at me and said, I just got one question for you. I said, what's that? He said, 50%. Could you still beat that guy at 50%? And we started laughing. I was like, no, I needed every bit of that 100% pops. It was funny. So that's some of the fun things that happens after the fights. But yeah, that guy was tough. Alain Bonamy, tough, man.
Yeah. Can you just talk about, everything is mental.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the mental hurdles, like I always said, there were days I'd walk into the locker room and I was like, I don't feel like playing a football game. But by the time I got on the field, got into the game, I naturally just get into it. You can't do that in boxing. You can't step in the ring and be like, well, I don't feel like fighting today. Did you ever have any days where you woke up was like, I don't want to do it, or you just wasn't in the right mindset to get in the ring?
Not in an actual fight. I can't, nothing comes to mind. I mean, there was plenty of gym days like that, but not in an actual fight. Now, there were fights where I felt like I was too relaxed, like mentally, thinking, I'm just going to go out here and do my thing. Those ended up being my tougher fights because you have to be nervous, jittery, eyes going darting left and right. You have to be the same thing with you on the field. You have to be that energetic animal inside. And when I got those fights where I was really calm, those were the ones I was worried about because I knew that's when you might get caught with something you normally wouldn't. Or like I fought a guy in St. Louis. He had about a 500 record. It was just kind of an in-between fight. But my dad told me, he said, I don't like this fight. I don't want this fight. This guy's dangerous, Bronco. I've watched him fight. You know, I said, Dad, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Bell rings. Never in my career do I come just straight out. I either try to come out a little bit to the right, to the left, hands up, you know, ready and cautious in the first round. I came out with my jab down low, tried to do a little shoulder move. I walk straight across. Boom. Hits me. Down I go. First punch. Right hand. Down I go.
Wow.
I'm like, man. I look over my corner. My dad mouths, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "I'm fine, just embarrassed." You know, I got up and you know, I win the fight. My dad was like, "What were you doing?" I said, "Man, I was just so relaxed, Dad. It was a bad move on my part. You know, I lost my focus for just a split second. My focus on the fest. Yeah, yep. And then boom, I got caught and down I went. So
losing fights. You lost 11 of 68 fights. Mm-hmm. Not a lot compared to the caliber of fighters you were fighting. Mm-hmm. Was it harder or easier to come back after a loss?
You know, so later on in my career, after about the age of 30, probably 7, you know, I fought till I was 43. You know, I should have probably really retired around 35, 36, you know, right around that age. But I was still every so often take on a good prospect, beat him, get a shot at get a shot. And I was trying to capture that lightning in a bottle in my 40s, you know, like, man, let me just let me one of these fights. I'm going to just clip one of these boys. I'm going to walk out with that belt and I'm done. I'm going to ride off in the sunset. But, you know, in all honesty, later on in my career, when, say on a Monday, I'll say, you know what, today I'm not really going to go to the gym, but I'll double up on Tuesday. Right then and there, I should have quit.
Yeah.
I should have retired. I knew it, you know. And going into my last fight, I was sparring this young amateur. He was about 19, 20, but he was really good fighting on national level. We're working and I'm moving and I'm baiting him on these moves and he's buying them. And I'm getting ready to walk him into a left hand. He doesn't even know it. And I go to the ropes and I make my move and he shoots a right hand. I shoot my left and his right hand just beat my left, but he didn't realize it. It was like, bam, you know, his landed, my landed. He didn't realize it. Nobody in the gym realized it. I realized it. I went home that night. I laid in my chair for 2 hours staring at the ceiling, my lazy boy. And I kept replaying that over. I was trying to come up with a reason why his punch beat mine. I was doing my foot slid. I was replaying.
Something was wrong.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And then I said to myself, timing. Once you're losing your timing, that split second, Bronco, if that had been a world-class fighter, it'd been a ball game.
Yeah.
So I knew that day that it was definitely over. You know, I knew I should have just retired in that chair. I should have made my phone calls, but I didn't. I went forward, you know, and fought. But you know, when you're the guy that won't miss a session no matter what's going on. I mean, I remember burying my grandma fighting 7 days later. You know, and things like that where you just know that you have to continue on. But when you find reasons later on in your career or early, whenever it may be, to skip as opposed to figure out no matter what's going on, I have to be there. It's time to find something else because that's when you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell you what, of the 56 fights that I did win, it's 11 losses is what is as an athlete is what irks you to death. It's not the wins that you enjoy. It's the losses.
You replay it like, and you understand how you could have won those fights. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. So those are what you talk about as an athlete is you know, the ones you lost are the ones that really just deep down irk you and drive you more than any of the ones that you won.
You know, I'm just thinking here, 103 total fights, you know, 35 amateur and the 68 pro, and you talk like you never had a fight, which is amazing, especially from a lot of boxers in your era. I remember probably about 10 years ago, I met Terry Norris.
Oh, yeah.
Who was another great fighter but he used to put on wars.
That was my dream fight. I wanted to fight him. It just never happened.
Yeah, but he couldn't talk. He could barely talk.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, man, it's just like the beating and just everything that compounds on you. Have you had a lot of or any major challenges from your career?
No, nothing that that I'm aware of. Besides, I've got some knots at the back of my of my rib. But yeah, both of them are like that. So, but that nothing real. Besides my bones pop in the morning when I wake up, pretty much.
Yeah, I got all that
my shoulders and stuff. But no, I think a lot of these guys, if you looked at, I don't know what Terry Norris's amateur background was, but I'm sure if you looked it up, he probably had a few hundred fights. Okay. Right. A lot of these amateurs, before they turn pro, they'll 200, 300, 400 amateur fights. We didn't do that. We trained like pros and the amateurs. We picked our tournaments. We picked our fights. And we just didn't go fight every weekend and get punched, and then also sparring. A lot of that happens in sparring. You get a lot of so early in my career, I sparred a lot. I get ready for fights. I spar 80 to 100 rounds getting ready for a fight. As I got later in my career, when we added different trainers to our camp, I remember an old time Walter Smith, who worked out at the Chronic Gym with Tommy Hearns, Emmanuel Stewart, and all them, said, "At this stage, Bronco, you know how to fight. We don't need to burn ourselves out and beat ourselves up in the gym. You start cutting your sparring down to 40 rounds getting ready for fights. You come in. I always did like to, when I was getting ready for a fight, at least somewhere in my camp, do a 10, 12 round day with 3 to 4 fresh fighters, just so I knew where I was at and I felt good about it. So once I did that, I knew I was good. That was after training, with 2 hours training too. So I knew I was good. But I think a lot of guys take beatings, get beat up in the gym. We tried to be smart about it. And, like I said, I didn't have a lot of amateur fights. So I do see fighters. A lot of them talk what I call lazy, drag their words and things like that. And I tell you what, I'll say this. I'm a faithful person. I believe in Jesus. I believe in God. And I always, when I was fighting, like I said, I always felt like I was in it for bigger than me. And I always felt like God was protecting me. And I always prayed every day, Lord, please just put your hedge of protection over my mind, my body, my spirit. Let me have a strong, safe, sane, and stable mind all the days of my life, and so thank God that so far so good.
That's awesome. One more thing before the last little bit here.
Sure.
If there's one piece of equipment or one thing you did near the end of your career that if you could have taken that equipment or taken that device or taken something back to the beginning to start it over, that would have helped you become even better, faster, what would that be?
Man, I can't, nothing comes to mind.
In 23 years, there's a lot of inventions that came along, and you see you look at a guy like LeBron and how he spent so much money on his body and, something like that.
Oh, so those, I'm not sure what they're called, but those like hyperbaric chambers. Yeah, those where they go in there and they do
the elevation and everything.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Or I never took an ice bath.
Cryo.
All that kind of stuff. Those types of things would have been great, I think. Or I know a lot of hockey players to recuperate faster would lay in like them oxygen tents and things like that. I was just old school, man. I just got up, did my road work. When it was dark, my dad followed me in the car. I did setups and push-ups. Didn't do a whole lot of weights hardly at all. I wish I would maybe, if I look back, maybe added weights to my thing. But I could still punch, so it didn't matter. But but I was just old school. I didn't have all this stuff that these guys, all this fancy stuff. And I remember this Olympian telling me one day, came to the gym to spar, and he said, how many rounds you sparring today? I said, man, maybe 6 or 8. I said, I ran 5 miles this morning. My legs are a little tired today. He said, you ran 5 miles? Yeah. He said, running's old school, bro. I said, running is old school? Man, boy, I said, you ain't gonna make it in this game. I'm telling you that right now. If you think running's old school, that's your lifeline, my man. I'm telling you that right now. So, they road work. Oh, you have to have it. You have to have it. Now I do elliptical. I got an elliptical in the back room. I do that. I don't really run outside too much. Just I can feel it when I do it now.
See, I do spin. I'm up to about 150 miles in my last 16 rides.
No kidding.
So, yeah, I'm gonna try to finish off about 225 to 250 miles this month. So
no kidding.
Yeah. It
That's
keeps
a
me
lot.
active, man. And plus, with my knees taking shots and different stuff, it's one of those things where it's a lot easier for me because my back
Sure.
pain and other things that go wrong. But spin, I can get on the bike, I can spin out, ride 10 miles, 15 miles, whatever it is, and it's just a good challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I like the elliptical. Same difference in a sense.
Yep.
The bike, I never really got into the bike. It just bothers me. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
So to finish it up, I want to talk about some of the current fighters and just what you think about these guys and girls. And we'll start with Carissa Shields.
Mm-hmm. She is a very good fighter. I tell you one thing that does surprise me about her, though. I've watched her tapes, and it shocks me that if you watch and go look at what I'm saying too, when she's hitting the bag or hitting the pads, there's not any pivot in her feet are just flat. She's all arm punching, and she's doing what she's doing that. I thought, I can't believe one of these coaches haven't showed her just how to get that torque and that snap. Because she would knock girls out, because she doesn't knock a lot of girls out.
Comes
If you
from the
notice
hips.
that. Yeah, and she doesn't. You watch her; she doesn't do that. She's a good fighter, no doubt about it. But when they get into this, greatest woman of all time and all that, yeah, that's fine. I can roll with that. But when you start trying to compare yourself like pound for pound compared to the Terrence Crawfords and the Triple G's, there's no comparison. It's apples and oranges. It's not a knock against how talented and how good she is, but it's apples and oranges because, first of all, you don't have the level of competition that these guys
in the
have.
women's sport. Yeah.
Right. In order to be great, you have to beat greats. Right. That's how greats become great. The Alis, the Foremans, the Frasers, the Nortons, the Hearns, Leonards, Haglers, they beat each other. That's how you become great. So, but kudos to her for what she's doing. And before the COVID, the attention that she brought to women's boxing, we haven't seen attention like that since the Layla Ali and Mia St. John's and the Christy Martin days. You just haven't seen it. So she did bring a lot of attention to the sport. Lucia Riker when she was doing her thing back when. I think Clarissa, I just wish there was just that. I wish she had her Sugar Ray Leonard or her Tommy Hearns out there.
It would definitely be good. I know she was trying to bait Ali into coming back, but I don't think she's gonna do it. What about the Charlo brothers?
Good fighters, but not elite like they like they try to say. I mean, I thought the middleweight Charlo was going to be the guy to really maybe do something. Yeah, Jamel. I was messing two up, but I thought he might beat all the middleweights. But now I don't see it. But yeah, I could be surprised, but I just don't see it. They're there. They're A plus, but they're not elite fighters. I don't see it.
Yeah. Entertaining.
Very, very entertaining. Talk a lot of trash.
Jamal does.
Sometimes that gets to me. Some guys talk trash in a way where it's enjoyable. Like I really laugh. I get a kick. I look forward to it. And other guys it just irks me. I don't know. I can't explain it.
Yeah. Canelo. Is there any fighter out there that would give him a tough fight?
Well, I like I said, I thought the middleweight Charlo at one point. Actually, I was picking him over Canelo at one point.
Really?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was. But then after the last few fights, I'm like, I don't know. But I'm gonna tell you a kid who I really enjoy watching fight is Caleb Plant.
Okay.
Sweet hands.
Yeah.
I like him. I had heard at one point that him and Canelo were going to fight in December, but then Caleb Smith ended up jumping in on that fight, I guess. But I think Caleb Plant, just because of his boxing ability, Canelo is a great puncher, no doubt. Strong, takes a shot, man. I literally think you could hit that guy with a ball bat and you still might be in a fight. I mean, he can take a punch. But something about Caleb Plant, he's got that mental fortitude, and he's a guy that I like. I've been following him since way back, and I think he's going to do all right. And a couple more fights.
He gives him a fight though.
He does give him a fight because he beat the boogeyman. He beat the boogeyman of the super middleweight division when he beat that Uzgatike or whatever his name is. I mess his name up every time, but So, but right now, Canelo is he's the top dog. He's the top dog.
Would you say he's number one pound for pound, or Terrence Crawford, or Gervonta Davis?
I'm not ready to give it to Davis yet. No,
okay.
he's not pound for pound yet, because he's got to have that test fight. You know.
Yep.
Canelo had his Triple G fights, and I feel like the first fight I gave that to Triple G. I gave that first fight to Triple G.
I thought he won it.
Okay, and then but see, it was close. It was close. I could have lived with the decision either way.
He clearly won the second fight.
Yeah, but as far as pound for pound, I would probably right now, just off of merit and the number of fights and who he's fought and all that, you might have to go Canelo. But if I was going skill in a guy, I would give it to Crawford, because Crawford is a guy that can go in and adapt immediately. He always takes 2 or 3 rounds no matter what, but he adapts and he controls and he takes it over. So I'm a Crawford pound for pound right now. Him or Canelo, toss up.
Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury.
I'm taking Fury. I'm taking Tyson Fury. Yeah, I'm taking Fury.
Better boxer.
Yeah, and he's big. He's right up there with Joshua. He's not like somebody that Joshua is looking down on. He's gonna be looking up to this guy, actually. I think that I was just saying this today about Anthony Joshua. I said he went on, what he did in the Olympics and everything. He won an Olympic gold medal, I believe, right?
Yep.
Joshua was a gold. But he didn't do that off of just off experience. He did it off of raw skill. In the pros, we were talking about the Ruiz fight is what it was. I was talking about that fight today, and I said I picked Ruiz to beat Anthony Joshua at 11-1. I picked him to beat Joshua.
Wow.
I said because Joshua's going to be surprised at how fast that guy is, and Joshua is a guy who's getting where he's getting just off his raw talent, but he's going to actually be in a fight, and he's too green to handle what's going to be brought his way, and whatever. Hey, yeah. But it just, but he, let me get this side too. But but second time around, he adapted. He showed that he can adapt, became a better fighter. That loss really made him better. But I don't think he's ready for a Tyson Fury. I don't even think he could beat Deontay Wilder.
That was the next question, is there any fight that still exists for Deontay Wilder that brings public interest?
Almost any fight that he's in, just because he's Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
He's going to bring a lot of attention to himself. But I think what's really hurt what's hurt himself is all the excuses that he's made. I mean, now Mark Breland spiked his water was the latest and greatest. It's like, crazy. Come on, man. Come on. Mark Breland, I mean, if you want to say the 40-pound suit that you wore in there and all that, that's fine. But you know what happened in the first fight when Fury got dropped and he got up off the floor like the Undertaker?
Changed everything.
When he just sat up, right?
Changed everything.
But he attacked him. He got up off the floor and he attacked Deontay Wilder. And he had Wilder backed up. He rocked Wilder. He realized right then and there, we fight a second time? When that bell rings, I'm jumping this guy, because he does not know what to do when a guy jumps him. And that's exactly what happened in that fight.
Yeah,
he just came out jumping. No, he mauled him. He just mauled him.
Yeah. Errol Spence, Danny Garcia.
Well, pre-accident, to me, it was an easy Errol Spence pick for me. 100%. No questions asked. Boom. But I don't know. After a horrible car accident, and then all this time off too on top of it, I don't know. I'm going with Spence, but Spence Crawford.
See, I think this is the tune-up fight for Spence Crawford.
It is, and I think it's going to show. It's going to show what's going to happen in the Spence Crawford fight. I depending on how this fight goes, is depending on how I'm picking in the next fight. And this is not a guarantee. This is not a guarantee win over Danny Garcia, because, like I said, he's coming off. But have you after one of the first interviews after the accident, Spence didn't seem
right
there to me.
Yeah,
his words weren't right. And maybe, who knows, he might have been having a good night that night. I don't know, but he just didn't seem right. So we'll see what happens in this fight, but that's going to be interesting to see.
It's a tough fight to come through after a wreck and not fighting for 18 months, and especially everything else. Like, there's no tune-up fight. I'm like, well, this is the tune-up for Crawford. if this is the case.
Danny Garcia is nobody's tune-up fight.
He is nobody's tune-up fight.
He's the real deal.
Mike Tyson, Roy Jones.
Well, that all depends on the seriousness, how they both, take the fight.
They seem pretty serious.
If it's serious, if Mike Tyson comes out serious, he's gonna crush Roy Jones. And I love Roy Jones. I love Mike Tyson. I'm big fans of both of those guys. But if Mike Tyson comes out serious, man, you can't. Roy Jones, he couldn't keep Mike Tyson off him. First of all, Roy Jones is not that fleet-footed guy anymore. He hasn't been that guy for years. He's flat-footed now. You can't be flat-footed against Mike Tyson, especially if you're not a legitimate, true heavyweight. And Roy Jones started at boxing at 156. So it's not, if Tyson takes it serious and really throws bombs, he's going to hurt Roy Jones, actually, my opinion.
You're a legend. Mike Tyson's calling this the Legends League. Would you ever fight anyone in a exhibition fight?
Well, them guys are making what, about $8 to $10 million for that fight?
You and Tommy can make that.
Yeah, we would do it. I tell you right now, if I call Tommy Hearns and say, hey, let's meet at 175, make us about $5 million apiece, we'd both be on that all day.
I think we could pull it off.
We can pull it off. You call me. It's gonna. For that kind of money, I might fight my mom. She's moving back up here in December.
And one last thing, how do you feel about Nate Robinson and Jake Paul? Jake Paul, the reality star, being the co-main event for that event.
Nate Robinson.
Yeah, the basketball player.
Yeah. Oh, that's the co-main event on that?
Yeah, it's Nate Robinson versus Jake Paul. Jake Paul's a reality YouTube star.
Yeah, I know.
Millions of viewers. And, they're using it to get more and more eyes on it.
Yeah, exactly, because it's a pay-per-view. Yeah. And those guys, and that Jake Paul has, I don't know, millions, I guess, of followers on all the things that he does. So it's a business move. I can't knock the people that's doing it for the business side of it. For the boxing side, it's, now that would be one of those guys. Give me a Jake Paul or some of those. I don't, what's he weigh? About 200 pounds?
I think Paul? Logan Paul weighs 200. Logan's the older brother, the bigger one.
Okay.
Jake Paul's the younger brother, but they're both athletic. They both box, and they've been boxing. I don't think they have any professional boxing experience.
No, I've seen some of their training videos and stuff. Just recently, actually, probably because this is coming out. But yeah, I mean, as far as it's a sideshow, it's a little almost like a side freak show. Come see the bearded woman or the 10-foot man or whatever. People are going to come see it. So, but is it good or bad for boxing? I can't say either way. It just attracts a crowd that normally wouldn't probably watch boxing. They're just there to watch that. So, if you pick up a few fans, good. If not, if you pick up enough to cover everybody's purses and make a good pay-per-view, then great. Kudos to him.
Badu Jack is on there as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I like Badu Jack too. Yeah, good fighter.
So, man, I appreciate talking boxing. Man, I can do this all day. I love the fight game, man. I love the art of fighting. I love everything about it. I'm a huge MMA guy as well, but I watch boxing just as much. And man, I appreciate you for coming on and
Thank you.
And speaking to everyone and telling some stories. I had a great time. I hope it was just as fun for you to go back down memory lane. And
yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it. You were a great interview. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Do you have a Instagram or anything that people can get a hold of you or keep up to date on what you're doing?
Yeah, I do. I make it real simple. I got Instagram, Bronco McKart. I have Facebook, Bronco McKart. I just keep it real. Twitter, Bronco McKart. I just keep it real simple. I don't have any catchy names or anything. I just and I post things. And a lot of times what I do is go through a lot of old pictures and post different things and events coming up and things like that. So,
any advice for anybody up and coming right now that's maybe they're going through it tough with COVID or anything happening? Just any advice for them to change the mindset or to move forward and to pursue?
Yeah. You know what? It goes back to what I said earlier about that 10 seconds. Right now, the whole world is in a 10-second moment. We're all knocked down right now with COVID and everything that's going on around us and all the crazy stuff that's going on with politics and everything else, you know. So right now you're at the 5-second mark. You know, it's gonna get on that upswing here soon. So just get up, you know, stay focused, focus on your dream, and go get them. Nobody's gonna get them. Nobody's gonna get it. Nobody's gonna knock on the door and say, "Hey, here's your dream delivered to you today." No, you got to go out and get it. You know, and right now we're behind doors, we're closed down, we're locked down, all those things. But stay focused, stay training. You know, do your diet right. Don't give up. Just keep pressing along, and then you'll get up. You count to 8. You got your standing 8 count. Now it's time to go get it.
Time to go get it, man.
Yes,
Bronco, man, I appreciate you, brother. I'm gonna stay in touch. Hope you
For
don't
sure.
mind. I'm gonna stay in touch.
No,
with
absolutely.
you because what I'm doing with this sports platform, I think it'll be a great space for you as well. So I'll stay in touch with you on that. And thank you
Absolutely.
for coming on and blessing the Lulu Logic podcast with your presence and your knowledge and fight game. Dude, this has been amazing. And this
Thank
is the
you.
Lulu
Appreciate
Logic podcast, and we out.